Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sarah if you're new here. I started my channel to document my journey becoming a single mother by choice by going through IVF after getting diagnosed with endometrial cancer, which I am now cancer-free, as well as PCOS. So if any of those topics apply to you at all, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell if you want to be updated anytime I upload new videos. So I have a lot to update you guys on, not really a lot, but things are moving along and I'm feeling hopeful today. Yesterday I had my endometrial biopsies done for the ERA, the endometrial receptivity analysis test, as well as for Receptiva DX for that test. So I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my experience with that and a little bit more about those tests and just get you up to date from the last video that I uploaded. So I think the last video I uploaded was before my last ultrasound and blood work appointment. Basically, we were doing this mock cycle, mock transfer, so that I could do these endometrial biopsies. So you do everything that you normally would for an embryo transfer, but when you go in for the embryo transfer, you don't actually have an embryo transfer, you just have an endometrial biopsy. And the reason for that is for the ERA, endometrial receptivity analysis test, that is taking a little sample of your uterine lining to see if it is receptive to implantation. So it's checking to see if you have had enough or too much progesterone. So I started the progesterone and oil shots last week on Thursday, and my ERA was yesterday, which was Tuesday, and it was exactly, it ended up being 121 hours after I started progesterone. So basically 120 hours is about how many hours of progesterone most clinics have you take before an embryo transfer, and the ERA will determine if you personally need either more or less time on progesterone, because apparently, according to that company, like 25 to 35% of women are either pre-receptive or post-receptive. So when I get my results back, it'll come back and it'll say that I was either pre-receptive, receptive, or post-receptive. So pre-receptive would mean my uterine lining was not quite receptive and I need more time on progesterone, and it will give a recommendation as to how many more hours of progesterone I need for my uterus to be receptive to implantation. And if it's receptive, that means I was on progesterone for the right amount of time. And if it's post-receptive, that means I was on progesterone for too long and that we should decrease the number of hours that I was on progesterone. So I will say that the PIO shots this time around, somehow I just feel like they get easier the more you do them. Still a little sore, but it's not as sore as I was the first time I started doing them. And the other test that I had done is called Receptiva DX, and that checks for up to 3 markers. The first marker is the BCL6. God, I should have looked this up before making this video, but I'll look it up and put it somewhere on the screen. I think it's the BCL6 marker, and that checks to see if you have endometriosis, which, as I've said before, I don't think I have, but I just want to rule out everything, I should say. I want to rule out everything so I know that the next time I do a transfer, I can go into it completely confidently, that we have checked any possible thing that could prevent implantation or increase risk of miscarriage. So BCL6, think, checks for endometriosis. And then I'm also checking for inflammation in the uterus, endometritis. So that was the other marker that I added on. That was an additional $125. So the Receptiva DX test is 600, I think it's 690. I'll put it somewhere on the screen exactly how much it was, if I can find that. I think I included the order form with my shipment, so I'll have to look it up. And then the extra marker is $125. I was going to add on the beta-3 integrin marker, which would have been another $125. However, I sent an email to the company asking a couple questions, and someone ended up calling me, and I got to talk to him, and he asked me if I was doing a mock cycle or a natural cycle before the biopsy. And when I told him I was doing a mock cycle, he said, don't do the beta-3 integrin marker. He said it'll be a waste of money because the BCL6 is more, it tells you more, and the beta-3 integrin, I guess, is not as accurate if you're doing a mock cycle. So I thought that was really awesome of him. And he also told me that there's a handful of clinics in the US that they're still trying to like get their test into. And I guess Cleveland Clinic is one of them. I guess, you know, obviously I had to fight for this, not fight for it, but my clinic doesn't. Lily, I swear every time I film a video, she has a food and water bowl that are in like this little tray thing. And when she like licks her bowl because she thinks there's gonna be like more food that shows up, and it like rattles in the tray, and that's what you guys probably always hear during my video. Or maybe you never even hear it, and now that I made you aware of it, you're gonna hear it all the time. But I swear she always does it when I'm making a video. Yeah, so he said that they're still trying to kind of get their way into Cleveland Clinic, and I said that I go to Cleveland Clinic, and he was like, okay, he's like, we'll knock $100 off your test. So I thought that was really awesome. So I'm gonna pay $100 less for that test. I'm excited to get those results back. It was interesting because, and I'll tell you my experience with the biopsies, but for the Receptiva DX, I was like 100% in charge of it. So I had to go on the website, I called them, I ordered the test, the kit, they shipped it to me. There was a form to fill out with my clinic's information about my cycle, why I was doing the test, my credit card information. I filled that all out, and I had like the little container that I had to bring in a biohazard bag, and my doctor put my tissue from my endometrial lining into the little container, and I had to mail it. I had to FedEx it. So it was kind of, I'm really fascinated by, like, nothing grosses me out really. So like, I thought it was kind of cool to see, but it was kind of, I mean, other people probably would think it was kind of gross, but I thought it was interesting. But yeah, so I FedExed that yesterday, and they're gonna give the results to my clinic directly. They don't give the results to me, which is kind of annoying, so I have to wait for my clinic to relay the results. But they said, I think they said 5 to 10 days after they receive the sample, and the sample was scheduled to be delivered today, so I could get those results pretty quickly. The ERA results, I think, can take up to 3 weeks. So, all right. So my experience with endometrial biopsy. So if you search it on YouTube, ERA, you will get many videos of women talking about how it's the worst pain ever, and then you'll get some women saying they barely felt it. I thought that I was going to be one of those women that barely felt it. I just figured I'm tough and that I'd be okay. I also saw that the egg whisperer, who I follow here on YouTube, Dr. Amy, when she does ERAs, she said she always prescribes a Vicodin and a Valium. So I asked my nurse if I could please have a Vicodin and a Valium before my biopsy. And at first she was like, oh, we don't do that. And then she asked my doctor, he said it was okay. So they prescribed that for me. I took those about 40 minutes before my biopsy was scheduled for. So it was scheduled for 2:30 and I took it at took both of those at 1:50. My mom had to drive me because I had the pain meds. And when I took them, I really didn't notice, I felt like a couple minutes after I took them, I think it was a placebo effect. I'm like, oh, I think I feel it already. But then I really didn't feel much. I think it made me slightly relaxed and slightly sleepy, but I just expected to feel a little more loopy, I guess. And I really didn't. And so they took me into an exam room and my biopsy was scheduled for 2:30. I think my doctor ended up doing the biopsy at about, I remember exactly actually, because we had to write it on the ERA form, 3:25. So almost an entire hour late. And it wasn't his fault. There was all kinds of stuff going on that day, apparently. So, but I was waiting in that room for quite some time and getting nervous, and I don't know if the pain meds would have been more effective if I was in that, sweet spot of a half hour, between a half hour and an hour after taking them. But because I was past that, I was closer to an hour and a half, over an hour and a half after taking them. It hurt. So I was so not expecting the pain level that I experienced. And I really was hoping, I was so sure that I was gonna come on here and be oh my gosh guys, it wasn't that bad at all. Don't freak out. It's okay. You'll be okay. I will never do an endometrial biopsy again. If anybody ever tells me that I have to do an endometrial biopsy, I'm gonna say I have to be put under. I will not do that again. It was bad. He didn't count. I know some doctors will count and it'll just be 10 seconds and then done. I swear he was doing it it seemed like a minute, but it was probably more 30 seconds. And I know it was because he had to get enough for 2 samples for the 2 tests. So I think he was doing it longer than he normally would if he was just doing it for the ERA. But when they put, I think it's called a pipelle, the stick, the tube, when they put that through the cervix, that hurt really bad. And it was funny because I was kind of expecting it to feel I didn't feel anything during my embryo transfer. So they put a catheter through the cervix for the embryo transfer. But I assume the catheter is a lot skinnier than this pipelle because I felt that it hurt so bad. And then the pain just increased exponentially as he was scraping to get the tissue. So my nurse, thank goodness for my nurse. She was to the left of me and I just instinctively, I grabbed her hand. With COVID and everything, that's probably so not okay. But I grabbed her hand so fast and was squeezing it so hard. And I remember turning my head, burying my head into her stomach. It was bad. And yes, it only lasted, I really think I think it's only supposed to last about 10 seconds. I think mine lasted at least 20, probably 30, because I know he was trying to make sure he got enough tissue. And it was the most intense 20 to 30 seconds of my life. So and I can't even describe the pain. I mean, yes, it felt like really intense menstrual cramps, but it was like, but that was like the easiest part of it. Like, it was just the pain, and I don't even know how to describe the pain. It just was painful. So I'll stop talking about that. That was my experience with the biopsy. And they sent off, I guess the ERA sample had to be refrigerated for 4 hours, and then they overnighted it today. So it will arrive tomorrow, which is Thursday, the 18th. So I would assume by, let's see, 2 weeks from Thursday, 18 plus 14. I don't feel like doing math right now. What is that? I would say the first week of March, within the first week of March, I should get my ERA test results back, which should be before my egg retrieval. So now that I had that done, we were waiting to do that so that I can proceed with my second egg retrieval. So I already have all the meds that I got from Livestrong Fertility because of my cancer diagnosis. I got all of those for free, over $5,000 worth of medications, which I'm so grateful for. Those have been in my refrigerator. So now we just wait for my period to start. I will say that I felt a little crampy today. Oh, by the way, so after the biopsy, after like it was over and he removed the speculum, I felt better. I had like post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, I swear, like for the next hour when I would think about it, I almost wanted to start crying. But like the pain went away. Like, I didn't even feel crampy for more than like a minute after it was over. And then I really didn't feel anything else the whole rest of the day. Didn't have any bleeding or spotting or anything. So as soon as it's over, for me at least, it was over, and I didn't really experience any side effects or pain or anything after the fact. So that was good. And then, but I will say today, like in the afternoon, I started feeling, and even right now I can kind of feel like very mild cramps, which indicate to me that I think my period should be arriving within the next 5 days. So that is what I'm planning on. We have my baseline ultrasound and blood work scheduled for Monday, February 22nd, in hopes that I get my period this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, which would mean that my baseline would be on cycle day 2 or 3, so which would be perfect, because you want to start stimulation meds on cycle like 2, 3, or 4. So that is the plan. That is my hope. I know, if I've told you this before, you can never count on anything going as planned in IVF. So I am also prepared for potentially not getting my period by Monday. They said that I could call Monday morning. My appointment's at like 7:45 in the morning, but if I wake up that morning and I still don't have my period, I can call and cancel, and I'll just have to call and reschedule for when I do get my period. But they don't do baselines on the weekends, so we scheduled it for Monday just to be safe. There is a possibility, I mean, the fact that I'm having like a little bit of cramping today, there's a possibility I could get my period tomorrow or Friday. And if that's the case, I'd probably have to call and see if they could get me in Friday. But what I'm hoping for right now is baseline on Monday, start stimming that night, and potentially within 2 weeks have my next egg retrieval. I'm also still waiting on the results of my cancer screening. It was really frustrating because they called me. I got the kit in the mail, spit in the tube, FedExed it the next day, and like a week later they called me and said that they had to send me another kit because for some reason my sample was not able to be analyzed. And believe me, I followed all the instructions completely to a T because very detail oriented, and I I absolutely made sure that I filled to the line, minus the bubbles, and I didn't eat for a half hour or drink for a half hour before. I inverted the tube 5 times. I did everything I was supposed to. They said that sometimes it just isn't able to be analyzed, and they suggested that I do the sample first thing in the morning. So I did that, sent that off yesterday. Was that yesterday? Maybe it was the day before. So I'm going to have to, no, that was yesterday, because I sent it with my Receptiva DX. And I talked to the genetic person today, because she called me and she said, hey, I saw what happened. Like, I'm going to reach out to the lab and see if they can push your results, because she knows that I really need to get these results before my embryos are biopsied. Because if for some reason I do have Lynch syndrome and I want to do the PGM, I forget what the one is, the testing that I would have to do for the specific gene. But if I want to add that on, iGenomics has to create the probe for it, and I guess that can take several weeks and is a lot more money. Knock on wood, I don't have any wood around me. Knock on wood that I don't have Lynch syndrome, and we don't even have to worry about it. But I just need to know before my blastocysts are, biopsied. So waiting on those. I did get the results of all of my thrombophilia tests, and those all came back normal, so I don't have to worry about any of that. Antiphospholipid and PAI1 and a million others that I got tested for. I guess I don't have any trouble with blood clotting issues or anything like that. So that's great. So yeah, sorry for the super long update. So at this point, I will update you guys when I have my baseline ultrasound and blood work done, and probably take you guys along for my shots in the stomach, which really I'm not even like worried about, because I'm so used to shots now, and those are a piece of cake compared to progesterone and oil shots. So yeah, I guess, as you know, I'm just worried about OHSS again, but we are going to start at a much lower dose. I'm going to be taking letrozole to keep my estradiol, my serum estradiol levels low, and I think I'm also going to be starting with cabergoline earlier than I did last time, and they'll probably be monitoring me more closely, so we're gonna be okay. And I will keep you guys posted, let you know when I get my period and when I have my baseline ultrasound and blood work. So I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you again to all of you for all of your support and reaching out to me, and I just love our community. I know I say that every time now, but I really do. I love that we can support each other, and I'm talking to quite a few of you that are like, we're kind of like in very similar time frames. Some of you just had an egg retrieval, and some of you might even have your egg retrieval right around when I do. So it's cool that we get to talk to each other and be there for each other. So have a great night or day, and I will see you very soon. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you get notified when I upload my next video, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.